So good to say good morning, Michael, and thank you very much for your time, sir.
Good morning. Great to be with you, Jonathan. Lovely to be on the
Always
show.
good. Yeah, first time for 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but not the last, I trust.
Definitely not. Definitely not. So, Michael Swain is the Executive Director for Freedom of Religion South Africa, or 4SA. And we're chatting to him this morning about Beloftebos. So, just a little bit of background with regard to that. The beautiful thing is we get to chat to Michael about an update on the case against the owners of Beloftebos, which is a wedding venue in the Stanford area of the Western Cape. And they were taken to court by the South African Human Rights Commission, or SAHRC, after they declined to host and organize the celebration of a same-sex marriage on the basis of their sincerely held biblical beliefs, and saying that marriage is between a man and a woman. So what is the issue, and what are some of the latest developments with regard to that, Michael?
Well, this case has now been going on for well over 2 years. And in fact, it isn't just a single case, it's two cases. The first case was brought by the South African Human Rights Commission. And a second case was brought by another same-sex couple whose marriage celebration they also declined to organize and celebrate, and who incidentally have recently married at another venue. And both these cases are brought for unfair discrimination under PAPUDA. PAPUDA, as you may recall from our previous conversations on the PAPUDA Amendment Bill, is the Promotion of Equality and the Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, otherwise known as the Equality Act. So they are civil cases, but they carry quite significant sanctions, in fact, very significant sanctions. And it's a very significant case when it comes to basically our freedom, not only to just believe in our hearts what we want to believe, but also to live out our beliefs. And that's really the crux of the issue. The crux of the issue, we believe, is a freedom issue. It is certainly not a discrimination issue.
So then why is it illegal to refuse to do work for someone if it goes against your conscience? And what are the penalties in the South African law if you do so?
Well, the problem is that PAPUDA basically, which deals with discrimination, says that if you either give a service or a product or whatever it is to somebody that you won't give to another, or you withhold it from one and you give it to another, then that is discrimination if it's based upon one of the protected grounds. And of course, those grounds are things like race and color and language and age and HIV status, and of course, sexual orientation, gender, and in fact, of course, religion, conscience, and belief. So there's a list of, if you like, classes against which you cannot discriminate. And the problem is that once you have shown discrimination, PAPUDA deems that discrimination to be unfair. In other words, discrimination is automatically considered to be unfair unless you, as the person accused of the discrimination, can then actually demonstrate and show that your discrimination was in fact fair. But this is where the problem lies. And again, we often look at PAPUDA as a very bad piece of legislation because the South African Constitution has an equality clause in Section 9. And the Constitution has basically been ruled by the court, the Constitutional Court, to have no hierarchy of rights. In other words, no right should automatically trump another. They're all equal in that sense, none of them absolute. But if you do have a conflict, then the idea is to try and find the most sort of like, or the least erosive way of balancing the different rights against one another so that the maximum benefit can be enjoyed. It's never intended to be a winner takes all. But unfortunately, the test for PAPUDA, the fairness test, for example, has a factor which says, was the discrimination, did it impair human dignity? Well, obviously, if you're an LGBT couple, you're going to say that anybody who refuses to celebrate my marriage is actually impairing my human dignity. Another test is the complainant's position in society and whether he or she suffered from patterns of disadvantage or belong to a group that suffers from patterns of disadvantage. And of course, again, the LGBT community would claim that they have been historically discriminated against. And so what happens in reality is that your right to religious freedom actually is basically trumped by the rights, particularly in this instance, of the LGBT community. So it is very difficult once you've discriminated, to actually, in law, in our current law, justify that discrimination. And the sanctions are severe. The same-sex couple, as I said, that they've recently got married. That, by the way, it must be said that the venue, the owners of the venue, never ever made this about whether they were discriminating against them on the basis of their sexual orientation. I mean, their view has always been everybody is welcome on their venue. The Constitution recognizes your right to marriage. You can live how you want to live and love who you want to love. But the problem is, of course, that they are not happy with that. They want to make the point, and they are asking the venue, or the judge rather, to rule that the owners of Beloftebos must pay them 2 million rand to be given to an LGBT charity. So that gives you a sense of how perhaps unfair this law is. And secondly, the really draconian penalties that you can be subjected to if you fall foul of it.
Sure. That is really, really interesting. So obviously, with regard to that, then Beloftebos has now sent a letter to the South African Human Rights Commission. What's in that letter as we wrap up?
Okay, well, they want the SAHRC to recognize that their belief that marriage is between one man and a woman is not just an intensely held belief, but it is also one that is central to their faith and their relationship with God, and that relationship guides everything that they do, including how they use their farm. And so what they're asking is not that the SAHRC should say, yes, we agree with that, but they should at least recognize it. And secondly, that this matter shouldn't set any precedent. They believe that it should be settled. We believe that it should be settled. And really, we ought to, in this country, where we are supposedly united in our diversity, whereby we live in a democracy where we have obviously many differing views and opinions and lifestyles and what have you, but that we should learn to live and let live. And that's what we believe the outcome should be in this matter.
I also understand that the owners of the farm have obviously made some decisions with regard to Beloftebos as a wedding venue. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, please, Michael?
Yeah, look, this has been a long process, and obviously much prayer has gone into this. And the COVID lockdown obviously pretty much destroyed the wedding venue business. And so they've diversified the use of their farm, and they're no longer going to make their wedding venue available to the general public as such. But again, it just is an indication of perhaps why, as this couple who've now got married, and the venue is no longer even offering their services to the public generally to marriage, why are they pursuing this to punish them with a fine of 2 million rand? And this is, again, very concerning. It is a freedom issue. Imagine if the roles were reversed and it was anything else that you didn't want to do that you were forced to do, because it sets a precedent, which we think is very unhealthy. So, yes, that's the situation, Jonathan. But watch this space. We're obviously going to continue to support Beloftebos and their efforts for justice and for freedom.
Sure. Thank you so much, Michael. Thanks for that update. If people want more information, where do they go to get some more information?
Well, we always recommend that people go to our website, www.forsa.org.za, and then you can sign up for our newsletter. That will get you all the latest updates. I mean, we update the website as well all the time. And then also our Facebook page, Freedom of Religion SA. And stay in touch, stay informed. It doesn't at all benefit us to be ignorant. Often these laws go through very quickly and almost unseen. And we're watching. We are literally the watchmen on the walls. And when we see things that are going to erode our religious freedom, we identify them, we let you know about them, and then we give you the opportunity to also engage, often in a democratic process, which is so important that our voices are heard.
So important. Michael Swain, Executive Director for Freedom of Religion South Africa, thank you for your time, and thank you for explaining and helping us understand a little bit better. We wish you and the rest of the team all the best.
Thank you, Jonathan. All the best.